you, everybody. So we Jews have been perennial outcasts. And so when we get to the story of the leper, we should probably pay attention because it has to do with the concept of outcast. Throughout history, lepers have been demonized and feared and quarantined and sent out. And while Parshat Tazria, the first of the two parshiot that we examine today, look at the diseases, Parshat Metzora, the second of the two parshiot, take us into the process of cure. And that's where we're going to pick up. The cure is effected through an intricate set of kind of mysterious rituals. The priest orders 2 birds, one he slaughters, one he sets free, dips the blood, does the stuff that priests did in those days. After 7 days, the leper washes his clothes, bathes in water, and is pronounced clean to live as before, fully cured. But here's where it gets interesting. If you look at the first source on your sheet, the very first source, Leviticus 14:8, this line that says, the one to be purified shall wash those clothes, shave off all hair, bathe in water, and then shall be pure. And after that, the camp may be entered, but one must remain outside one's tent 7 days. Now, why is this interesting? Is that we think of lepers being sent outside the colony, being sent out to sit completely alone. And there is an element of loneliness in this. But Judaism says, nah. The Torah says, even before he's cured, he's brought back into the camp. Even before he's cured, he's brought back into the camp. Now, this is strange. It's very strange because when we first read about leprosy, the Torah said the person shall be impure as long as the disease is present. Being impure, that person shall dwell apart. Hu badad yeshev. Those words, hu badad yeshev. He'll sit alone. He'll sit alone. Yes, he sits alone, but he doesn't sit alone as a total outcast because there's a place in the camp for him to be healed. Stark language, it's sad language, but it doesn't last long because we bring him right back in. Not even a week of exile. That's how the Torah tells us. Unfortunately, historically, that model didn't last long. While we read one Haftorah for Rosh Chodesh, if we were to read the Haftorah specifically about Metzora, we would read the following from the book of Kings. There were 4 men, lepers, outside the gate. They said to one another, why should we sit here waiting for death? If we decide to go into town, what with the famine in the town will die, and if we just sit here, we shall still die because we are outcasts. As soon as the nation that David brought together and Solomon built up the temple began to crumble after Solomon, the ability to take care of one another and the dedication to take care of one another fell through the cracks. The rabbis realized this, and they come up with a more harrowing account of the leper in Jewish tradition. It appears in the last chapter of the Tractate of Sanhedrin of the Babylonian Talmud. The rabbis are dealing with all kinds of theological questions, and eventually they ask the question, when will the Messiah come? It's a question we all want. There are many answers given, but I think one of the most striking is in this story. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi found Elijah the prophet who was standing at the entrance of the burial cave of the great mystic Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi said to Elijah, when will the Messiah come? Because Elijah is known to be the forebearer of the Messiah. And Elijah said to him, why don't you go ask him? Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi asked, and where is he sitting? Elijah says back to him, at the entrance, at the gates, outside, but at the gates of the city of Rome. Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi asked, and what is his identifying sign? And Elijah says, he sits among the poor who suffer from illness, and all of them untie their bandages and tie them all at once. Take all the bandages off, put all the bandages back on. But the Messiah unties his own bandages, one at a time. The Messiah says, perhaps I'll be needed to serve and bring about redemption. Therefore, I never tie more than one bandage so that I won't be delayed in attending to my duties. The answer to the question of when the Messiah will come in this version is, he's already here. Where is he, though? He's sitting outside the gates alone, with no one caring for him. Perhaps it's at this point we ought to remember that none of these stories, according to the rabbinic tradition, are actually about leprosy. They're about spiritual maladies. They're about spiritual loneliness. It's true, it lends an entirely different read, but the one who sits alone outside the camp is suffering spiritually. And when we go out to heal them and bring them in, we're attending not just to their body, but to their aching soul. Because in a sense, bringing them back into the camp is the cure. But what happens as time goes on? We forget about them. They're out there, waiting for change, waiting for somebody to care. That's why the book of Lamentations, the saddest book. Thank you. I'll move it down. That's why the book of Lamentations, the saddest book in the Bible, the book we read on Tisha B'Av, the day we commemorate the destruction of the temple, begins with the line, alas, lonely sits the city, Yashva Badad. If you notice, it's the same language as the leper sitting alone. Which brings us to the end of the story of Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi and the Talmud. Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi went to the Messiah. Now, mind you, where did Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi meet Elijah? At the cave of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in Israel. Magically, according to the Talmud, he took one step and he was in Rome. One step. Because there's no time in the Talmud, but I gave you time in between the beginning of the story and the end. The Talmud doesn't have that. It just says, and he went and met the Messiah. Wait a second. He went and met the Messiah, and Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi went to the Messiah, and he said, Messiah, greetings to you, my Rabbi and my teacher. The Messiah said to him, greetings to you, Bar Levi. Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi said to him, when will the Master come? And the Messiah said, today. Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi said to Elijah, he was back just like that at the cave of Shimon Bar Yochai. He's flying through the entire Mediterranean Sea with the snap of a finger. And he says, the Messiah lied to me. He said he's coming today, and he's not here. And Elijah said back to him, when he said today, he was referencing a verse from the book of Psalms. Today, says the book of Psalms, today, if you will listen to his voice. How is it that Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi could fly to Rome and back in one split second? Because how much time does it really take to go knock on the door of somebody we haven't seen in a while? How much time does it take to stop and ask if somebody's okay? About that much time. Pick up your phone, call them. It doesn't take that much time to bring the Messiah or that much effort, but you actually have to make that step. And what does it mean to listen to the voice when it says, if only you will hear his voice? Because it says that the priest must go outside the camp. We have to step outside our little box if we're going to bring the Messiah. Shabbat Shalom.